Can you imagine what it's like to point a gun at an innocent man, a guy who never did anything wrong to you, and pull the trigger knowing it's the only way to survive? Jesse Pinkman can, because he lived it. And that moment, that single second when he pulled the trigger and killed Gale Boetticher, was the exact instant his soul died along with him. Breaking Bad has dozens of brutal scenes, but none, absolutely none, destroys the viewer like this one. Let me explain why this hurts so much. Gale Boetticher wasn't a villain. He wasn't a violent drug dealer. He wasn't a killer. Gale was a brilliant chemist, a gentle guy who loved singing karaoke, who grew exotic plants, who saw beauty in science. He entered the drug world not out of greed or malice, but because he believed in the purity of the chemical process. He admired Walter White, saw him as a genius, a mentor. And that's exactly why he had to die. Let's go back a bit. Season 3 of Breaking Bad. Walter and Jesse are working for Gus Afarian, the biggest drug dealer in the American Southwest. Gus is meticulous, calculating, and doesn't tolerate variables outside his control, and Jesse Pinkman, with his explosive temperament and impulsive decisions, is the biggest variable there is. Gus decides he needs a contingency plan. If Walter can be replaced, Walter can be eliminated. And who can replace the great Heisenberg? Gale, the dedicated assistant who's learning every secret of the blue methamphetamine recipe. Gale is being trained to make Walter disposable. When Walt discovers this, panic takes over. He knows how Gus operates, knows that the moment Gale masters the formula will be the moment a bullet finds his head. The only way to stay alive is to ensure Gale can't replace him. The only way to survive is to kill Gale. But Walter is being watched. Gus's henchmen are ready to execute him at any moment. He can't get to Gale. He can't do the dirty work himself. So he calls Jesse. Imagine this call from Jesse's point of view. His partner, his mentor, the guy who dragged him into this world, is begging for his own life, and the only way to save him is to commit murder. Not killing a criminal. Not killing someone who deserves it. Killing an innocent man who's at home, relaxing, with no idea what's about to happen. Jesse drives to Gale's apartment. The camera follows him the entire way. You see the conflict on his face. You see his hands trembling on the steering wheel. You see a man being forced to cross a line from which there is no return. He arrives at the door, knocks. Gale opens, smiling, confused, but friendly. He doesn't really know Jesse. Doesn't understand why he's there. Why is he holding a gun? Gale's face changes when he realizes that moment of recognition, of fear, of total incomprehension. Why? What did I do? Gale starts to beg. His voice breaks. He doesn't want to die. He doesn't understand why he needs to die. And Jesse, with tears in his eyes, raises the gun. The screen cuts to black at the exact moment of the shot. The creators of Breaking Bad were brilliant here. They don't show the body. They don't show the blood. They don't show the death itself. They only show Jesse's eyes before the shot. And that's infinitely more devastating than any explicit gore, because the horror isn't in Gale dying. The horror is in Jesse having to do it. Aaron Paul, the actor who plays Jesse, delivered one of the most impressive performances in television history in this scene. You can see his soul being torn apart in real time. Every second on his face tells a story of internal destruction that words cannot describe. Jesse Pinkman entered that house as a troubled man, but still human. He left as an empty shell. And the rest of the series is basically following the consequences of that moment. Jesse never recovers. He sinks into drugs, depression, Gale, he punishes himself in every possible way. Every bad decision he makes after that can be traced back to that apartment, that trigger, that look of terror on an innocent man's face. You know what makes Breaking Bad so different from other shows? It doesn't romanticize violence. In other productions, characters kill and move on. Death is just a narrative obstacle, a problem solved. But Breaking Bad understands that taking a life changes you forever, especially when the victim didn't deserve it. Jesse isn't a cold-blooded killer. He's not a psychopath. He's a lost kid who was manipulated by the man who should have protected him. Walter White used Jesse as a weapon, pointed him at Gale, and pulled the trigger through him. And that's what makes Walter the true monster of the series. Not Gus Ifari, not the cartels, Walter White. The chemistry teacher who destroyed everyone's lives around him to feed his own ego. Jesse paid the highest price. He carried the weight of that murder through all the following seasons. Carried it until El Camino, the movie that continued his story. Carried it perhaps for the rest of his life. Gale's scene also works as a mirror for us as viewers. For 3 seasons, we rooted for Walter. We wanted him to win. We wanted him to escape. And suddenly, we're confronted with the real cost of that support. For Walter to survive, an innocent had to die. For us to keep watching our favorite anti-hero, a good man was executed at his own front door. Breaking Bad makes us accomplices, makes us look in the mirror and ask, was it worth it? This story we're following, these people we're rooting for, the price being paid, do we still want to be part of this? Jesse Pinkman shot Gale Boetticher that night. But in a way, we all pulled the trigger with him. The genius of Breaking Bad lies in making us feel the weight of that choice, in not letting us escape easily, in reminding us that every action has consequences, and some consequences destroy souls. Jesse was never the same after that night. The question is, after watching this scene, after witnessing what survival can cost, can you look at Jesse, at Walter, at the entire series, the same way? Or is there something in you that also changed in that moment when the screen cut to black?